Okay, we'll just wait for a few other people to come back.
I haven't practiced it. This is what you gave me.
I remember.
I can only get one hand.
That's good. Okay, we'll start. So the lesson that I'm going to do today is Alexandria I, and the title of the lesson is Primary Image. And unlike Susan's lesson that was called On the Back and was on the stomach, this lesson is true to the title. So please lie on your back. And have your legs long and your arms down by your side. And think how you would create an image of your body using 5 lines. So there'd be 1 line for the spine and 4 lines for the limbs, 2 lines for the legs and 2 lines for your arms. Now, in your mind, draw in the line of your spine, starting at the tailbone and going all the way up to the crown of your head. How long is this line? And now draw in the 2 lines that represent your legs. Somewhere above the very end of the line. So think of where your legs would come out of your hip joints. So where would you draw the lines coming out of this long line of the spine? And then in a similar way, draw in the 2 lines for your arms. And now to this drawing, you're going to add, if you think it's a bit like a stick figure, so I've got the 5 cardinal lines, but you're going to add in where your shoulders are. So it's like you're drawing in 2 points that depict the shoulders. And again, similar to where the hip joints are, you know, where the line of the arms come from the shoulders. And in your image, refine where your 2 legs are originating. So you can think of your hip joints, but think of them from behind. And sense how the 2 lines for the legs would originate from your hips. So you've got now the line through your midline, the line of the spine, 2 lines for the arms, and 2 lines for your legs. Now come up to sitting, and you're going to sit with your knees bent and both of your arms are parallel to the floor. And in this position, do a similar thing. Define the image of the lines. So sense here when you're sitting, how is the line of your spine? Now, what is the relationship of the line of the spine to the floor? And to the line of the spine to your body? And think of your two legs, starting from your hip joints from behind the pelvis, and of the direction of your legs. Think of it as two straight lines, or it might be you have an image of two soft straws or two pieces of strings that define the legs. So you're not thinking of the legs themselves in terms of the muscles, of the weight or thickness, but you're imagining them as lines or as light straws radiating from the hip. And if you get tired with your arms, you can pop them down, but then bring them back when you're ready into that same position. And do the same thing with your arms and the shoulders. See the lines of the arms coming from the shoulders. Notice what direction the arms have and the length of the arms. And in this position, once again, see the entire picture of the 5 lines, the 5 straws and the strings that are thin, long and light. And this is a concise image of the body. And now return to lying on your back. And as you lie on your back, renew the image that you're creating, the image of the lines. And now bring your body into the same configuration as it was in sitting. So we've changed the orientation, but you're going to bring your limbs in that same configuration. Okay, so the legs are in the air with the knees bent, if that's comfortable. And refresh your image here. Sense the main line of your spine from the sacrum to the crown of your head. What distance is the crown of your head from your arms? Pay attention to both edges of your shoulders and think of the lines that make up this image without thinking of any sensations in your arms, just thinking of the lines. And pay attention to your legs in the air, again, thinking of the direction of the lines of your legs and the points in the pelvis where the legs originate. So this is a concise image of the body. You're not concerned with what presses into the floor. You're paying attention to 4 points, the 2 points where the legs originate, so the hip joints, and the 2 points where the arms originate, the edges of the shoulders. Refresh this image without meaning. They are only abstract lines, fine, thin, and light. Now, with easy, fine movements, slowly make the smallest movement to start rolling toward your left. Pay attention to the line from the sacrum to the head, to the 4 points. So here the movement is unimportant. you're thinking of the concise image, and the idea is that you're going to move in a way that you can hold that image in your mind. So just do as much of the movement that is possible, and at the same time think of the lines without any weight or substance. And if you get tired of your arms and legs in this position, you can always pause and come back to it. But just notice, how as you do the movement, can you spread your attention, or maybe it's a bit like multitasking, but in this instance, the thing that's in the foreground of your attention is this image, the line of the spine and the two lines for the arm and the two lines for the legs. And as you continue to roll, what lines may leave your image? So at some point in the movement, does the line of the leg or a line of the arm, does that get missed out? And then open your eyes and do a few movements. And again, you're thinking of the lines, of those straws or strings that make up your limbs and the spine. They're light without weight. They're abstract. And now leave it alone and rest. So when I was preparing this lesson, I was thinking of the panel that we had on Friday and talking about ATMs and how, I think I made the comment of, when you're working with the general public, of keeping it simple. But then if you think there's different ways of keeping it simple, so there's different demands in a lesson. There's a physical demand, there's demand of following the teacher's or the person's instructions, and then there's a demand on the attention. And as we go through the lesson, it'll become evident, where the demands of this lesson lie. So as you lie here, renew your image. Pay attention to the leg lines coming out of the hips and out of the edges of your shoulders. And now, think of the hip joints and the edge of your shoulders, and you can think of them as 4 points. And pay attention to the width between the shoulders. So the 2 points that depict the shoulders. And how does this line relate to the crown of your head? So there's the thin line that goes from the sacrum up through your body to the crown of the head. And the arms, abstract lines which have length and direction. Now, a major part of the lesson is to see this image completely. To renew the image as light, fine lines that have direction, without connecting to the muscles, without thinking of the weight, purely an abstract image of the body. Think of the distance between the 2 points of the shoulders and the 2 points that depict the hip joints. The length of the line from the lower points to the length of the upper points. So you're thinking of the line that connects the two hip joints and the line that connects the two shoulders, and the length between that upper line and the lower line. And you can sense the direction of the arms and the legs. Paying attention to your image, lift your arms and legs as before into the air. And see, as the limbs come into the air, can you maintain this image of your body through the lines? And now start rolling toward the right. Move in a way that distinguishes the whole image. As you do the movement, in your image there's the 5 lines and the 4 points. The whole image moves to the right. And sense as this image clarifies that there's no weight. It's without volume and without weight. And how, again, the primary thing is the image. Doesn't matter how large a movement or how quick, but you're moving in a way that enables you to keep this image with you. All 5 lines and the 4 points. And is there a point in the movement that you lose part of the image? If you go a bit far or at a pace that might be too quick, does one of the lines drop from the image? And then leave it alone and take a rest. And as you're lying on your back resting, reinforce this image. Reinforce the line of your spine, sensing its length, from the sacrum to the top of your head. Reinforce the lines of the legs originating from the points of the hip joints. And reinforce where the 2 arms or the lines of the arms are. And then keeping this image, roll onto your side and return to sitting as you did earlier. And as you sit, do you maintain that image with you, or does it get lost until you come up into the sitting position? So your knees are bent, your arms are parallel to the floor. And in this position, refresh the image of the lines or the threads, the strings that make up this image of the spine, the 2 arms and the 2 legs. And pay attention to your hip joints. And if you think of the hip joints, where in the back of you do they originate? So have you a sense of the markers of the hip joints being away from the floor? So anatomically, the hip joints sit approximately, for most people, 12 to 15 centimetres from the floor. So see if you need to refine the image of the hips and where the lines of the legs come from the hip joints. And then notice your 2 sit bones, the line of the sacrum from your head through the chest to the crown of your head, and the points of the shoulders. And in this position, if you think of the upper line between the two shoulders and the lower line between the two hips, what's the length of the lines? And now move in the lower points easily forward and backward, like a pendulum. So your body is just rocking like a pendulum, forward and back. And as you do that, you're sensing the 4 points, the length of the line going from your sacrum to the crown of the head, and the direction of the lines of the arms and legs. And then leave it alone and lie on your backs. And in your own way, recreate your image. Now bring both legs into the air. And both arms. And imagine how the left leg could bend, and as the left knee bends, how the foot would come closer toward the lower leg. And so when you've got an idea of that movement, start thinking of bending the left knee and thinking of how the front of your foot, the toes, would come closer to the shin. And as you do that, can you still think of those lines, of the 5 lines? And slowly start to extend the left leg. But it's like you're pushing the left leg straight by pushing through the heel. And then as the knee bends, your foot's changing. So sense the direction of which you're lengthening and bending the knee. So if we're thinking in lines, are you bending the knee in a plane as the knee is pointing to the ceiling? And if you think of the movement of pushing with the heel, could you imagine straightening the leg and pushing the knee, pushing with the heel so the leg is parallel to the floor? So when I gave the first direction, most of you just sort of straightened the leg up toward the ceiling. But now see, how can you have that idea of lengthening the leg by pushing through the heel so that the toes come toward the shin as the knee bends. And continue to do this and bend the left elbow. And slowly explore how the elbow and knee can extend and in which direction they do that. So again, think of the planes of action. So the elbow and knee may come more toward each other and then move away from each other. And as you slowly extend the left arm and leg, can you sense the direction, the wholeness of the image of the 4 points? The direction of the back of both legs and the arms. And then have a rest. So we're gradually going to take this concise image of the body into some more movement. And notice as you're resting, is it easier to create and reinforce, refresh, renew these lines? The line of the spine, the line of the 2 legs, the 2 arms. And you're thinking of the length from the sacrum up to the top of your head, the points for the 2 shoulders and the distance between them, and the points for the 2 hip joints and the distance between them. And the distance from the line of that connects the 2 shoulders to the line that connects the 2 hip joints. And return to that same configuration. So you've got your legs, knees bent up in the air. You've got your right arm, your arms up toward the ceiling, and your left elbows bent. And you're going to, thinking of this image, you're going to continue to extend the left arm and the leg so that you slowly roll a bit toward the right. So how can you take this direction into a movement that's going to slowly roll you a little toward your right as you maintain this concise image of your body? And again, the movements really aren't important. It's more keeping this image in mind. And as the image becomes clearer, you may find that the movement becomes easier. So if you think back, I was thinking when Arlene was here and she was talking about the first sentence in the Awareness Through Movement book, we act in accordance to our self-image. And so here you're creating an image of lines to replicate the main lines of your body. And you're moving as you focus on these abstract lines and strings. As you do the movement, you're always attending to the lines. And then leave it alone and take a rest. So in the lesson, Feldenkrais makes a comment about Eastern dances and how, I think he talks about Cambodia, I'm going to say Thailand, but certain dances where the foot's in the shortened position and where it's the heel that pushes the foot. And as you rest, renew this concise image, airy, without content, without volume, without weight, and recreate these thin lines. And there might be thin lines like straws or string. And return to having your arms and legs in the air as you have this image in your mind. And now start to do this idea of the right foot, of pushing with the right foot as the right leg lengthens. And then as the knee bends, the right foot comes towards the shin. And notice, having done it to the other side, if it's easier to maintain your image on this side. And then start allowing the right elbow to soften. And continue that movement as you have the 5 lines and the 4 points in your image, and start to roll toward your left. And see how does the image, in a sense, I was going to say dictate, I don't know if that's the right word, but how is that the primary thing in your mind as you start this movement of rolling toward the left as the arm and legs extend, and as they come back to the middle, the arm and the elbow, or the knee and the elbow, the lines of the knee and the elbow come toward each other. And where, how far in the movement have you a clear image of the 5 lines, the line of your spine, the line of the 2 legs and the 2 arms? And how does that image be in the foreground of your attention as you do the movement? And then you can leave it and take a pause. And by doing these movements, is it a two-way thing? So you're attending primarily to the lines that create this concise image, but having moved this image as you have, is that also helping you refine this image? Have you a clearer sense of the line going from your sacrum to the top of your head, the length of it, the length of the lines of the legs and the direction that they take? the length and direction of the two arms. And those 4 points, the 2 points that depict the edge of the shoulders and the 2 points that depict the hip joints, and how those 4 points relate to each other. And keeping this image in the foreground, return to that same pattern of the arms and the legs in the air, and taking the image with you, now move in a way that you can go once to the right, so you can roll once toward the right, lengthening or extending the left arm and leg. And then you can roll once toward the left, extending the lines of the right arm and leg. And again, is there somewhere in the movement where possibly for an instant you lose track of one of those lines? And what's the quality of being able to retain this image in the foreground of your attention as you roll from side to side? And then leave it and bring your concise image with you as you lie on your back. And once again renew the lines. Those 5 lines and the 4 points. And what is it about this image that's purely human? And keeping this image with you, roll to the right and sit with your knees bent and your arms parallel to the floor. And with this image in your mind, start to rock a little bit to the left and right, and feeling how in this orientation and in this movement, you can take this image of the 4 lines with you, sensing the length from the sacrum to the crown of your head, the length of your arms, the length of your legs, and the length between your shoulders and between your hips. And again, it doesn't matter. And the movement's secondary, just having the ability to take this concise image with you in the movement. And then leave it and lie on your backs. And just spend a few moments refining your image, refining those lines. And you might like to think of the image, the line of your spine starting at the sacrum, going up through to the top of your head, to the crown, and sensing how the two arms originate from the points of the shoulders, and how the two legs originate from the hip joints, and the direction of the four lines of your limbs and the line of your spine. And then keeping this image with you, slowly roll over and come up to standing. And then as you're standing, again sense this concise image of the human body in standing, sensing the line from the sacrum up to the crown of your head, the lines of your legs and the lines of your arms as strings or as soft straws, and then the points that depict the edges of the shoulders and the hip joints. And then take this image for a walk. And as you walk, just sense the different lines. And continue walking and gradually make that transition of your attention from the foreground of the image of the lines to your sense of the movement. So it's a bit like before, taking yourself out from an introspective space into the world. Now start to leave or transition from paying your primary attention to this primary image of the body to walking. And you can spread your attention to the people around you, to the room. And then just walk how you'd like to walk, as it's the end of the day and you're going to go home. You might again change somehow the quality as you prepare yourself to leave for tonight. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. Thank you.